Two ambitious women, one shot outside an apartment building.
They both had overcome a lot to try to be successful.
She was very loving. Whatever you would need, she was more than happy to give it to you.
Witness accounts describe an escalating drama, but reports of what happened depend on who's telling the story.
There was a brief, some disagreement.
A group of girls had jumped one female.
She pulled what seemed to be like a small handgun and shot.
She had no criminal record. The first time her name had came up in any situation.
The aggression, the beat down, that would make anybody afraid.
I was thinking to myself, this could be what triggered everything.
She showed her the small knife and said that she would use it to protect herself.
And she claimed she had this gun for protection. You had supporters for both. I think it created a divide in the city, but she didn't deserve to die that way.
June 26, 2011. It's a quiet Sunday afternoon in Pine Bluff, Arkansas, when a series of urgent calls come into the Jefferson County 911 Center.
911.
Somebody just outside the Sunset Village.
Ma'am?
Somebody just outside the Sunset.
The calls were coming in saying that they had a shooter. They heard gunfire. People was running. It was a bunch of chaos. And they knew that one person had been shot.
Now, please come to this apartment this Sunset. Please, this girl got shot in her chest.
Okay, it's a female that's shot in her chest.
First responders are dispatched to a location on the west side of town.
When responding to those type calls, it's always in the back of your mind, is the shooter still there?
The first officer on the scene sees an older man administering CPR to the apparent victim. The man says he is a reverend at the church across the street.
He saw the confrontation and heard the shots. Shots really got his attention.
Looked over and he basically sees another woman with a gun and he sees a woman lying on the ground. So he goes over to render aid. When I arrived, the scene was secure. EMT was giving attention to the young lady that was down. You could see the blood coming out of the shoulder area. She was not conscious. She was not talking. They was rendering aid and getting ready to load her up into the ambulance.
As the victim is rushed to the hospital, police question bystanders to find out who she is.
We identified her through witnesses that had given her name as Vanessa Bearden.
They were able to determine that she didn't live there. So part of their initial inquiry was to determine why she was there.
The average citizen in Pine Bluff is not likely to be a victim of some random act of violence. We don't have home invasions with killing, drive-bys, and when we do, it's personal beef. It's not random.
Vanessa Bearden had no criminal record, no run-ins with the law. So you want to know who, what, why, and how. Just how all of this materialized.
Born May 15th, 1990 in Pine Bluff, Arkansas, Vanessa Bearden has deep ties to the community.
Growing up, Vanessa, she had a lot of love. She was surrounded by all her cousins and all her family.
They're a big family, and they're a Pine Bluff family. They are known for their church affiliations, singing group, the Bearden Singers.
We were country kids, so we like to ride four-wheelers. We're outside picking getting the eggs from the chickens, just running around.
Everybody knew Vanessa, and she just had a really big personality.
Vanessa was very loving. Whatever you would need, if you would ask Vanessa, Vanessa was more than happy to help you with it or give it to you.
She sought justice. She wanted to make sure that everybody was treated the right way, treated fairly.
In 2008, around the time Vanessa turned 18, the Bearden family faced a major challenge.
Vanessa's father had been sick for a little bit, but when he passed away, it was still a very big shock to our family, especially to Vanessa. It was part of her support system that was no longer there, that was gone. I think it caused her to kind of reevaluate a little, take some things more seriously.
She did grow. She became more mature. Vanessa did step up with helping me as well. So she would keep my children while I worked. That was about the same time where she met the father of her children and began a relationship with him. And she had 2 kids. Vanessa's mom is a nurse. A lot of our family, they are nurses. And she liked to care for people. So Vanessa wanted to go on to become a nurse. I think it probably made her a little bit sad her dad wasn't there to see that happen. Vanessa was the best mom ever.
Their hair, shoes, everything was planned, everything was intentional because she loved those babies, and that was the way she showed her love.
As happy as 19-year-old Vanessa was to be a mother, the hardships continued when her relationship with the father of her children ended.
She did try to make that relationship work, but when she realized that it was not salvageable, that's when she kind of decided to explore other options outside of him.
Within the same year, her mother was diagnosed with terminal cancer.
Vanessa took that very hard because her mom is her idol. She was modeling her life, her adult life, after her mother's life.
Her mother's battle inspired Vanessa to complete her training to become a certified nursing assistant as she raised her nearly 2-year-old daughter and 6-month-old son.
She had just starting her job so that she could continue taking care of her family. And, she had a lot of positive things working out for her right then.
But just as 21-year-old Vanessa's hard work is paying off, a tragic shooting has left her gravely wounded. And Pine Bluff police are trying to determine what happened.
They were able to piece together the approximate area in which the shooting took place, and that was based on them locating a spent 9mm cartridge.
We also retrieved the knife that was on Vanessa Bearden's person. The Reverend had taken it and given it to us. There wasn't any blood on it. I was wondering to myself, did she bring this knife to this scene with the intentions of using it? And it went bad?
As they begin to talk to people, they start getting into more specific questions.
According to some, it might have been related to a fight that took place 45 minutes earlier at a different apartment complex a few blocks away.
It was a group of college-age girls had jumped one female. And then you had a crowd of onlookers watching the fight.
They say Vanessa Bearden was one of the girls in that group and one of several people who recorded the fight.
I was thinking to myself, okay, she was involved in this fight. This could be what triggered everything. You want to know who, what, why, and how. So I want to know, did they know each other? What was the cause of the shooting? Was this a planned attack, or was she just in the wrong place at the wrong time?
Coming up, an eyewitness shares her version of the story.
She wrote her window down and told us, "You bitches come see me."
And the suspect tells her own.
She had been jumped, and she was just trying to protect herself from this group of girls.
Detectives in Pine Bluff, Arkansas are investigating the shooting of 21-year-old Vanessa Bearden. And news of the tragedy has started to spread through the community.
Another cousin called me and he asked me, did I hear anything about Vanessa being shot? And I told him no. So we all went to the hospital. We all met at the hospital. I remember sitting in the family room and the clergyman coming to pray with us. She's the baby cousin, and it's just not how it's supposed to go.
At the scene, investigators have just learned about a fight between a group of women about 45 minutes before the shooting at another complex nearby. A young woman named Colby steps forward and tells them she knows who shot Vanessa.
She identified herself and that Vanessa was a friend of hers. She said they witnessed the fight and partook in it.
Colby agrees to come to the police station and give a formal statement.
Could you tell me what happened today?
Before that incident happened, Vanessa Bearden was involved in an incident with Olivia Moody.
Colby says Olivia isn't someone she and Vanessa knew well, but she was involved in an argument with their friend named Alicia, who lives nearby.
She said that early in the day she was hanging out with Vanessa, and they noticed another friend of theirs, Alicia Jeffries, was involved in a fight with another young lady.
There was some disagreement between Alicia and Olivia. There were witnesses who tried to break up the fight, but it had almost that gang element of multiple girls jumping on one.
I have been knowing Olivia for probably 4 months, but I haven't known her well as friends. I've always known her to stay into it with people, saying something smart just to see if someone would come bother her. And today she got to fighting one girl, and Vanessa jumped in that fight.
So Vanessa jumped in the fight against Olivia?
Yes, which doesn't make sense to me because they don't even know each other.
A young man that they called Casey, he pulled Olivia from the fight.
That fight was broken up by a black male, and the black male dropped Olivia off in Sunset.
As he's removing Olivia, she is screaming obscenities. She is screaming threats at the group.
After the incident, Colby says Alicia went home and she and Vanessa continued on with their day.
According to Colby, about 45 minutes after the fight, her and Vanessa was hanging out actually at the apartment complex where Olivia Moody lived. They were sitting on a fence post in front of the building, and they noticed a white Tahoe riding through, and Olivia Moody was actually in that Tahoe.
They came past us as me, Vanessa, and a group of other girls and males were standing along the ledge. And Olivia wrote her window down and told us, "You bitches come see me."
Colby says they shrugged it off, but a little while later, Olivia sent them another message directed specifically at Vanessa.
A young boy, probably 8 or 9, He came through the hallway of one of the apartment complex and said that Olivia said she wanted the girl in the red shorts. Vanessa was the only one in red shorts. I stated to Vanessa, don't go, because I knew she had a gun.
How did you know she had a gun?
I was just saying because the type of person she seems to be, she wouldn't just call you out of a fight. So Vanessa reached to her side and tapped on her side and showed me a knife and said she not playing with her.
Colby said that she showed her the small knife that she had and said that she would use it to protect herself if she needed to.
Colby says Vanessa went to find Olivia and the rest of the group followed her.
Vanessa started to go through the same apartment building hall that the boy came out of. She got within 4 or 5 feet of the apartment, and I saw Olivia reach out from behind her pants and pull what seemed to be like a small handgun. It was silver. And she pointed up her gun and shot. And when I saw that, I ran. And when I ran, I didn't know Vanessa had been hit until I heard her yell, Colby, I'm hit. I turned around and I started running back. I saw a man, an older man, bent over, giving Vanessa CPR.
Okay. Did Vanessa have the knife out at the time she was shot?
No, sir. The knife was never drawn.
In my opinion, Colby was believable. I believe the way she painted the picture and how everything went down.
The young man that Olivia Moody sent through that breezeway to try to make contact with those 3 young ladies was never identified. We're not able to determine who it was. Once law enforcement spoke with Colby, they had additional investigative steps. They wanted to see if they could find additional witnesses that could support the story that Colby just told them, and they want to find Olivia Moody.
Before investigators can follow up with anyone else, they receive devastating news about Vanessa.
She was pronounced dead at the hospital.
After hearing that she had succumbed to the wounds, this changed the whole dynamic of the crime scene. So now we don't just have a first-degree battery, now we have a homicide.
News of the fatal shooting of 21-year-old Vanessa Bearden has shaken the community of Pine Bluff, Arkansas. Family members gather at the hospital in mourning.
When I found out she died, it hurt me. It hurt me deeply. And I hurt for my aunt, and I hurt for my cousins, because she played an integral part in their life.
I was shocked when it happened because she's the baby cousin. I knew how much we were losing. And to us, she was not just another girl that got shot. When we went back to see her, they asked us not to touch her because it was a crime scene. And I think that had to be the hardest part for her mom and her sister.
As Vanessa's loved ones try to make sense of the loss, detectives are following up on a suspect in the shooting. 20-year-old Olivia Moody.
We come into the knowledge that she lives in Sunset Village, so we was able to track her down there. We found no weapon at the scene, so we wasn't ruling out the fact that she may still be armed. We knock on the door and she answers.
They obtained consent from Olivia to search her apartment. During the course of that search, they were not able to locate or did not locate the firearm that Olivia used to shoot Vanessa Bearden.
We take Olivia back to the detective office, back to the station where she's Mirandized, and we talk to her further from there. Her demeanor was, I would say, calm, nonchalant. She admitted to the shooting, but she's saying that it was self-defense.
Olivia confirms what Vanessa's friend Colby told police, that she was involved in an argument earlier that day with Alicia Jeffries.
We find out this revolved around the fact that Alicia was now dating a young man that Olivia Moody used to date. And apparently that caused some friction between Olivia Moody and Alicia. They had come in contact as Olivia Moody was walking down the street.
Olivia stated that Alicia and some of her friends, one of them being Vanessa Bearden, they colluded together to jump her and beat her till she was able to get out of their grasp.
We took photographs of Olivia's face, of her hands.
She did sustain some evidence of physical injury, abrasions, cuts.
Olivia says it might have been worse if her friend KC hadn't stepped in to save her.
Brian Gaddy was a friend of Olivia's. They called him KC. He was the guy that got her out of the fight. He was trying to break the fight up and get her out of harm's way.
After leaving the apartments, Olivia says she obtained a gun in case she had any more run-ins with the women.
Olivia claimed she had this gun for protection, and she was headed back to her apartment. And on the way there, she see a group of girls sitting on the fence post by her apartment.
Although Alicia had already left the apartment complex, that group did include Vanessa and Colby. Near them was a group of young men, and Olivia says one of them approached her, a man known as G-Rel.
G-Rel had some prior minimal association with Olivia Moody. In other words, they knew each other, but they weren't friends.
Olivia says G-Rel asked her about the fight, and as they talked, she decided it might be worth trying to de-escalate the tension through some of her friends.
She decided, according to her, to go talk to Vanessa and Colby to see if she could, I believe the phrase she used was squash the situation.
Olivia admits she brought a gun with her just in case.
Olivia says she had been jumped, she's been harassed, and she's been bullied. She was just trying to protect herself from this group of girls.
As Vanessa and Colby got closer, Olivia claims she heard Colby say, "Get her."
So she pulls out the gun, according to Olivia, to scare him.
She admits that she shot the gun in the direction of Vanessa Bearden. But Olivia claimed that she was trying to shoot a warning shot.
When she realized she'd actually shot Vanessa, she was in shock.
She just stood there near the body, and someone took the gun from her. She didn't notice who took it. Then she went to her apartment, closed the door, and waited for the authorities.
After hearing Olivia's version, I didn't buy the warning shot based on witnesses' statement that it was pointed at Vanessa.
After her interview, the decision is made to arrest Olivia.
Miss Moody was initially charged with capital murder. As I was filling out the paperwork and the ticket to let Miss Moody know she was being charged with capital murder, she made the statement, no, actually it was second-degree murder. It caught me by surprise because I had never heard anyone make a statement like that.
While Olivia's comment reveals unexpected knowledge of the legal system, it has no effect on the outcome.
When there is a criminal charge, an arrest charge is called, that's made by the police. But the police aren't authorized to file an official criminal charge, an indictment. And in court, she was charged with murder one.
At this point, you want to find more witnesses to either debunk or solidify her statement. We was trying to collaborate the story that Olivia told us about G-Rail being at the scene, but we was unable to locate him. I was beginning to wonder if there was a G-Rail.
Coming up, investigators question their assumptions about Olivia.
She does not fit the profile of a cold-blooded killer.
And the residents of Pine Bluff begin to take sides.
The community stood behind Olivia, believed in her.
It kind of felt like being victimized all over again.
Just a few hours after the death of Vanessa Bearden, the young woman who shot her, Olivia Moody, is in police custody. Investigators suspect her claim of self-defense is a smokescreen for her true motive.
I think to a large degree that Olivia Moody had been embarrassed and she had been punked down, and that she was going to take action to make sure that everybody in that area knew she was not to be messed with.
Kobe had told us that the fight earlier during the day was between Alicia Jeffries and Olivia Moody. So now we need to talk to Alicia to find out what the fight was about.
When detectives speak with Alicia, she confirms she and Olivia are at odds over a guy, but she does not agree to a formal interview. To learn more about their issues, detectives dig into their social media.
They did not like each other. They had a pretty significant Facebook war in which they both said very terrible things about the other person. And that all surrounded by what was then Olivia Moody's ex-boyfriend and Alicia's current boyfriend.
Alicia started taunting and harassing Olivia, and tensions became high and it escalated into the fight.
A background check on Olivia Moody underscores the tragedy of the shooting.
Olivia Moody, she was born in Chicago, Illinois, came up poor. Her mother was addicted to drugs.
Olivia's mother let her family members raise her children as she worked on her recovery.
Olivia's mother is my sister, and in the beginning, me and my mom, we were taking care of my sister's 5 kids, and Olivia was one of them. And eventually, my mom lost her eyesight, so I ended up getting all the kids through DCSF and my mom, and it wasn't easy, but we made it. We made it.
Despite the hardships of her early childhood, Olivia managed to rise above her circumstances.
Olivia was very bright. She was a honor roll student in elementary school. She was always studious, and she was very giving. She was basically just a good kid. She didn't get in trouble. She went to school every day. She made good grades.
She ended up coming to Pine Bluff, attending University of Arkansas at Pine Bluff, and majoring in criminal justice.
She would have been the first person in my immediate family that would have graduated with a college degree. So yeah, we was all proud of Olivia.
At the time, she was actually a clerk for a local circuit judge. Knowing Olivia's background, she does not fit the profile of a cold-blooded killer.
Detectives consider the possibility that Olivia has been telling them the truth about being harassed. But they need to determine why Vanessa was the one who ended up dead. Searching for clarity, they revisit the witness statements and discover a pivotal piece of evidence.
Vanessa and Olivia didn't have any type of relationship. They didn't even know each other prior to that day.
Vanessa did, however, video that altercation with her cell phone.
The video of the fight, it shows all the people that was around watching it, and it shows Olivia getting jumped on. She's pretty much helpless, and it's hard to fight against that many attackers. I believe that Vanessa was at the wrong place at the wrong time. Vanessa wasn't the one that Olivia was into it with. She just happened to be there. But I think seeing those girls that had jumped on her, I think it triggered something in Olivia. But I feel like there was other avenues that Olivia could have taken before taking matters into her own hand.
Although Olivia Moody has been charged with the first-degree murder of Vanessa Bearden, investigators now question whether the evidence supports her claim of self-defense. They hope the results of an autopsy will provide some definitive answers.
Vanessa's autopsy revealed that she was struck in her back left shoulder, and it actually exited through the front out of her right shoulder.
She was shot in the back.
It was not a close-range gunfire, somewhere between 6 to 10 feet maybe. I'm thinking, it's not self-defense if you hit in the back and you also flee. See, if Vanessa had pulled the knife on her or tried to cut her or stab her, then you would have had an argument for self-defense.
It's important to note that there's no evidence that Vanessa Bearden ever brandished the knife, much less threatened Olivia Moody with the knife.
As the story of Vanessa's murder and Olivia's arrest spreads through the community, not everyone agrees about Olivia's guilt.
I think it created a divide in the city because you had supporters for both, and you had a lot of anti-bullying sentiments that was brought about for Olivia, and had people that felt like Vanessa didn't deserve to die that way.
Olivia got to be the person that they looked at and said, oh, well, just because she went to college, it couldn't have been Olivia that did it. Vanessa had to have done something in order for Olivia to react like that. And it kind of felt like being victimized all over again.
Olivia returns to college while investigators continue to build their case against her. Then, 3 months after Vanessa Bearden's death, a new witness emerges.
An individual by the name of Gerald Allen, or Gerald Allen. He goes by the street name G-Rail.
Olivia claimed this man witnessed the shooting firsthand, but police had never been able to find him.
G-Rail, the one we was looking for, he surfaced. He's locked up in jail on drug charges.
While he's incarcerated awaiting trial, he writes a letter to the prosecutor's office indicating that he has information. That letter's turned over to the Palmville Police Department investigators, and they go interview Garrell Allen. G-Rail was a material witness for the government. This case was heavily dependent on eyewitness testimony as to what happened.
G-Rail says that he sees Olivia shortly after the fight.
Olivia entices G-Rail to try to talk to those three girls and get them to come have some type of interaction with her.
Later on, G-Rail says he sees Olivia fires a shot from about 6 to 10 feet away, striking Vanessa. He also mentioned that Vanessa never made any type of threatening moves towards Olivia.
G-Rail did confirm that Olivia Moody shot Vanessa Bearden in the back, not only in the back, but as Vanessa Bearden was running away from Olivia Moody.
However, he seems just as conflicted about the shooting as the community at large.
G-Rail still believes that despite all that information, despite how everything played out, that Olivia still acted in self-defense.
He maintained that, but he was incorrect.
For prosecutors, the statement makes one thing abundantly clear.
I have never believed that Olivia Moody was an inherently bad person. I believe Olivia Moody did an inherently bad thing.
I honestly believe she got the gun for protection, but I think just seeing them at her place where she resided triggered something in her. I think she tried to bait them into that situation. I don't believe she fired a warning shot. I think she just pointed and fired.
But they know the outcome of any trial, especially one this controversial, is uncertain.
Going into trial, I had my concerns about the public opinions because you don't know how that would affect the jury.
Nearly 1 year after Vanessa Bearden's death, the young woman who shot her, Olivia Moody, goes on trial for murder.
The trial began May 16, 2012, and the courtroom is packed. There's a lot of supporters there for Olivia. There's some supporters there for Vanessa.
Our defense was self-defense. We tried to use the aggression, the beat down, that would make anybody afraid. She was protecting herself against further beat down.
General argument by the prosecution is that it can't be self-defense if the victim is fleeing and is no longer a threat to you.
You have to prove state of mind in order to say you fearfully of your life. And the only way we could establish that was to put it on the stand. But anytime you put a criminal defendant on the stand, it is just high risk.
Before Olivia takes the stand, prosecutors attempt to negotiate a plea deal, reducing the charges from first-degree murder to manslaughter. But Olivia refuses the deal.
She would have gotten 4 years probation, reduced to manslaughter, with the right of expungement of record. Had that happened, she would have been placed in a car that day with her family going back to Chicago.
Olivia Moody took the stand. She was faced with tough questions that she did not have an answer for. Why she got a gun, why she went to them. And then the defense was done presenting their evidence, and we gave closing statements. But the jury deliberated and came back with a verdict of guilty on one count of second-degree murder. I believe it was very clear to the jury that this was not a case of self-defense. Not at all. This was an extreme manifestation to in indifference to the value of human life, which is what second-degree murder is.
The verdict was very hard. It was very hard. Olivia was very strong. She didn't cry, you know. She was trying to comfort us, matter of fact.
The guilty verdict felt like not what we believed she deserved, but there was some kind of justice.
She received 30 years and was eligible for parole and 7.5 years with good behavior. I felt like justice was served, but in the end, you had 2 families destroyed. Vanessa and Olivia, they both come from rough backgrounds. They both had overcome a lot to try to be successful. They both had bright futures ahead of them, and this situation just changed the trajectory of their both futures.
We talk about Vanessa pretty often, remembering the good things, laughing about the things that were funny, and telling the stories, making sure that her children are brought up in an environment of love.
Vanessa was a person that never got to live up to her potential. A lot of times when I have seen interviews or even while I was in court, she was always referred to as that girl. But she's Vanessa to us. She's a mom. She's a sister. She's a daughter. She belongs to somebody. She's still here with us. She's still a person. We still believe that Vanessa should have been able to live her life peacefully.
The air hung heavy and humid over Pine Bluff, Arkansas, on a quiet Sunday afternoon, the 26th of June, in the year 2011. It was a day that began like any other, promising the gentle repose that only a weekend could offer in a close-knit community. Yet, beneath the veneer of ordinary tranquility, a series of human dramas, born of unresolved conflicts and the fragile nature of personal pride, were rapidly approaching a catastrophic climax. 2 ambitious women, each having navigated their own intricate paths through life, each aspiring to success despite myriad obstacles, found themselves tragically entangled in a dispute that would irrevocably alter the course of their lives and cast a long shadow over their respective families and the city itself. One of them, a 21-year-old named Vanessa Bearden, would face a destiny cruelly cut short, collapsing outside an apartment building, the victim of a gunshot wound that echoed far beyond the immediate moment, reverberating through the heart of Pine Bluff and into the deepest chambers of collective memory. Vanessa was widely regarded as a beacon of generosity and an embodiment of selflessness, possessing a spirit that radiated warmth and a willingness to extend assistance to anyone in need. Whatever support or kindness one might require, she was more than happy, indeed, she was eager, to provide it, embodying a truly loving disposition. She was one of those rare individuals whose presence enriched the lives of all who knew her, leaving an indelible mark of compassion and spirited vitality. Her life, though young, was a tapestry woven with threads of aspiration, dedication to her family, and a genuine desire to make a positive impact on the world around her, qualities that made her untimely demise all the more profoundly heartbreaking. The events leading to this tragic afternoon had unfolded with an escalating intensity, transforming from a minor disagreement into a confrontation of dire proportions. Yet, as with many human conflicts, the true narrative of what transpired that day became subject to the varied perspectives of those who witnessed it. Each account, filtered through personal biases, fears, and loyalties, presented a slightly different hue of the same truth, creating a complex mosaic of testimonies that investigators would later painstakingly endeavor to assemble. There had been, by all accounts, a significant beef, a profound disagreement that had simmered and then violently erupted. This particular conflict had, in an earlier phase, manifested as a physical altercation, a group of young women collectively engaging in a fight against a single female. This detail would later become crucial in understanding the undercurrents of fear and perceived aggression that fueled the subsequent fatal encounter. What made the situation even more perplexing and tragic was the stark contrast between the past conduct of the individuals involved and the sudden, violent turn of events. Vanessa Bearden, for instance, possessed an impeccable record, her name having never appeared in any official capacity in connection with IT, hot criminal activity. She was in every sense of the word an unblemished member of society, focused on building a stable future for herself and her children. This fact lent a profound air of mystery to her involvement in a street altercation, and later, her falling victim to gunfire. The perceived aggression, the unsettling act of being beat down, as described in certain accounts, was undoubtedly a frightening experience for anyone involved. One could easily ponder how such a visceral experience might have acted as a powerful trigger, setting off a chain reaction of fear, retaliation, and an ultimately tragic outcome, prompting profound questions about the psychological impact of public humiliation and physical assault. The story was also tinged with elements of self-preservation and fear, as individuals involved spoke of arming themselves. One account spoke of a small knife, produced not as an instrument of aggression, but as a symbol of protection, a desperate measure to safeguard oneself. Another, more ominously, described a gun, explicitly claimed to be for protection. This proliferation of intentions, the desire to protect versus the perceived threat, painted a complex picture, illustrating how quickly a dispute could escalate from words and fists to the fatal introduction of weaponry, thereby creating an entirely different and more perilous dimension to the conflict. The divided sentiment within the community, where supporters emerged for both the victim and the alleged perpetrator, only deepened the complexity, highlighting the nuanced perceptions of right and wrong, culpability, and justification that often emerge in such emotionally charged cases. Despite the varied opinions, a poignant consensus echoed through the city. Vanessa Bearden did not deserve to perish in such a manner, a sentiment that transcended loyalties and spoke to a fundamental human appreciation for life and its intrinsic value. At precisely June 26, 2011, on that otherwise quiet Sunday afternoon, the silence of Pine Bluff, Arkansas, was shattered by a cascade of urgent calls inundating the Jefferson County 911 center. Each incoming call conveyed a chilling message. A shooter was loose, gunshots had been heard, people were fleeing in terror, and the scene was dissolving into widespread chaos. A singular, terrifying certainty began to form from the cacophony of panicked voices. One person had sustained a gunshot wound. First responders, their adrenaline surging, were immediately dispatched to a location situated on the west side of town. For law enforcement and emergency medical personnel, responding to reports of gunfire always carried an inherent, profound risk. The foremost thought, a constant and unwelcome companion in the back of their minds, was the chilling question of whether the shooter remained present, lurking in the shadows, posing an ongoing threat. The first officer to arrive at the scene discovered an older gentleman, a revered figure who served as a reverend at the church located directly across the street, valiantly administering cardiopulmonary resuscitation to the apparent victim. The reverend, in a state of understandable distress, recounted his observation of the unfolding confrontation and distinctly heard the sounds of the shots fired. The loud reports had unmistakably captured his attention, drawing his gaze to the scene. He described witnessing another woman, unequivocally armed with a gun, standing over a woman lying motionless on the ground. Without hesitation, driven by an innate sense of duty and compassion, he immediately rushed across the street to offer aid. Upon the arrival of additional emergency personnel, the scene was rapidly secured. Emergency medical technicians swiftly took over, attending to the young lady who lay grievously wounded. The horrifying sight of blood visibly emanating from her shoulder area immediately conveyed the severity of her injuries. She was unresponsive, completely unconscious, and utterly silent, unable to communicate. The EMTs, working with urgent precision, continued to administer aid, preparing her for immediate transport to the hospital. As the gravely injured victim was hastily rushed away, a critical piece of the puzzle began to emerge: the necessity of identifying her. Police officers began to question the distraught bystanders, desperately seeking any information that would reveal her identity. Through the invaluable accounts of multiple witnesses, they successfully identified her as Vanessa Bearden. Further inquiry revealed that she did not reside at that particular apartment complex, prompting the investigators' initial, pressing question: why was she there, at that specific location, on that fateful afternoon? Pine Bluff, while not immune to crime, had a certain characteristic pattern to its violent incidents. Random acts of violence, particularly those involving killings or drive-bys, were mercifully uncommon. When violence did occur, it almost invariably stemmed from a deeply personal beef or long-standing disagreement, rather than a spontaneous, arbitrary attack. The notion of home invasions resulting in fatalities was largely foreign to the community's experience. Vanessa Bearden's clean slate, her complete lack of any criminal record or prior encounters with law enforcement, only compounded the urgency of the investigation. Her pristine background defied the typical profile of a victim in such a violent altercation, leading detectives to pursue a crucial set of questions. Who was involved? What exactly transpired? Why did it happen? And how did this entire unthinkable tragedy materialize? The sequence of events leading up to the shooting, from the seemingly minor disagreements to the tragic outcome, presented a daunting challenge to unravel. Vanessa Bearden, born on May 15th in the year 1990 in Pine Bluff, Arkansas, was deeply rooted in the fabric of her community. Her formative years were steeped in an abundance of love, nurtured by a sprawling network of cousins and family members who formed a robust, interconnected unit. They were, in the truest sense, a prominent Pine Bluff family, recognized not only for their extensive lineage, but also for their profound church affiliations, particularly through their celebrated singing group, the Bearden Singers, whose harmonies had resonated through countless gatherings and services. Her childhood was characterized by the quintessential experiences of country kids, embracing the joys of riding four-wheelers, the simple pleasure of gathering fresh eggs from the chickens, and the uninhibited freedom of running around outdoors, immersed in the natural world. Everyone, it seemed, knew Vanessa, and she, in turn, possessed a remarkably expansive personality, brimming with an infectious vivacity that drew people to her. Her very essence was defined by an overflowing capacity for love. Vanessa was the kind of person who, if approached with a need or a request, was not merely willing but genuinely happy to assist, to offer whatever she could, embodying a generous and giving spirit. This intrinsic kindness was coupled with a strong, unwavering commitment to justice. She harbored a fervent desire to ensure that everyone she encountered was treated kep, ite hat, respect, afforded fairness, and provided with an equitable opportunity. Around the year 2008, when Vanessa reached the age of 18, the Bearden family endured a profound challenge that tested their resilience. Vanessa's father had been contending with an illness for some time, yet his passing still struck the family, and especially Vanessa, with the force of a sudden and devastating shock. This loss created a significant void in her foundational support system, a pivotal figure suddenly gone from her life. The bereavement, profound and encompassing, prompted a period of deep self-reflection, compelling her to reevaluate certain aspects of her existence and to approach her responsibilities with an intensified seriousness. This transformative period undoubtedly contributed to her growth and enhanced maturity. Vanessa notably stepped into a more active role in supporting her family, frequently caring for her sister's children, while her sister worked, demonstrating a burgeoning sense of responsibility and altruism. It was also around this time that she embarked on a significant romantic relationship, meeting the man who would become the father of her two beloved children, marking another pivotal chapter in her young life. Her mother, a dedicated nurse, served as a profound source of inspiration. Indeed, a significant number of their relatives pursued careers in nursing, embodying a familial tradition of caring for others. It was a natural aspiration for Vanessa, too, who, following in the footsteps of her matriarch, also desired to become a nurse, driven by an innate desire to care for people. The absence of her father during this pursuit likely cast a melancholic shadow, a quiet sadness that he was not there to witness her progress and achievements. Vanessa approached motherhood with unparalleled devotion, exemplifying what her loved ones proudly described as the best mom ever. Her children's lives, from their perfectly styled hair to their meticulously chosen shoes, were orchestrated kep ite hat, meticulous planning and intentionality, each detail a testament to the boundless love she harbored for her babies, serving as a tangible manifestation of her deep maternal affection. However, happiness for 19-year-old Vanessa, then a new mother, was frequently interspersed with enduring hardships. Her relationship with the father of her children ultimately reached an impasse. She had earnestly striven to nurture and sustain the bond, but upon realizing its unsalvageable nature, she made the difficult decision to seek pathways independent of that relationship, courageously exploring other options for her future and her children as well-being. Within the very same year, another crushing blow descended upon the family. Her mother received a devastating diagnosis of terminal cancer. This news was received by Vanessa with profound grief and a deeply personal sense of tragedy, as her mother was not merely a parent but an idol, a figure after whom Vanessa consciously modeled her burgeoning adult life. her mother's courageous struggle against illness, however, galvanized Vanessa, spurring her to redouble her efforts and complete her training to become a certified nursing assistant, all while diligently raising her nearly 2-year-old daughter and 6-month-old son. She had only just embarked upon her new career, poised to provide diligently for her family, and a confluence of positive developments seemed to be aligning for her at that crucial juncture in her life. Yet, at the tender age of 21, just as Vanessa's dedicated hard work appeared to be culminating in success, a sudden and devastating shooting left her gravely wounded, abruptly truncating a promising future and plunging Pine Bluff police into an urgent and intricate investigation determined to unravel the true sequence of events. The investigators, meticulous in their approach, painstakingly began to reconstruct the approximate area where the shooting had transpired. This was accomplished by the crucial discovery of a spent 9mm cartridge case, a small yet powerfully informative piece of evidence left at the scene, offering a tangible starting point for their inquiry. Furthermore, they successfully retrieved a small knife, which had been found on Vanessa Bearden's person, or near her purse, a detail provided by the Reverend who had rendered immediate aid. Importantly, there was no trace of blood on the knife, a fact that would significantly shape the subsequent narrative. The absence of blood led investigators to a pertinent and probing question. Did Vanessa bring this knife to the scene with the explicit intention of using it, or was it merely a means of personal protection? And if so, how did the situation deteriorate so rapidly? As they engaged with eyewitnesses and bystanders, their inquiries evolved from general questions to more specific, targeted probes. Accounts began to surface, suggesting that the shooting might have been intricately linked to a prior altercation, a fight that had erupted approximately 45 minutes earlier, just a few blocks away at a different apartment complex. The narrative coalesced around a scene where a group of college-aged girls had collectively jumped or assaulted one particular female, all while a crowd of onlookers watched the chaotic spectacle unfold. These preliminary reports crucially implicated Vanessa Bearden as one of the girls participating in this group altercation. And indeed, she was reportedly among several individuals who had recorded the fight on their cell phones. This revelation immediately sparked a crucial line of thought for the detectives. Okay, she was involved in this prior fight. Could this initial confrontation have served as the powerful triggering event that ultimately culminated in the tragic shooting? This led to the fundamental investigative questions: who, what, why, and how. Investigators desperately needed to ascertain if the involved parties knew each other beforehand, to pinpoint the precise cause of the shooting, and to determine whether it was a premeditated, planned attack or simply a calamitous instance of Vanessa being in the profoundly wrong place at the precisely wrong time. The answers to these questions were pivotal in constructing a comprehensive and accurate understanding of the day's unfolding tragedies. The impending revelation promised by an eyewitness, a young woman named Colby, would soon add crucial layers to the unfolding drama, offering her explicit version of the story. She would later vividly recall the provocative message. She wrote her own down and told us, "You bitches come see me." This audacious challenge, reportedly hurled by the antagonist, painted a stark picture of escalating hostility. Complementing this, the alleged shooter, Olivia Moody, would present her own starkly contrasting defense, asserting that she had been attacked and was merely attempting to safeguard herself from the aggression of the group of girls. These two narratives, diametrically opposed, highlighted the deeply subjective nature of memory and perception in moments of intense conflict, setting the stage for a profound legal and ethical deliberation on the true events of that afternoon. Detectives in Pine Bluff, Arkansas, found themselves engrossed in a multifaceted investigation concerning the shooting of the 21-year-old Vanessa Bearden. Concurrently, the devastating news of the tragedy began to ripple outward, gradually engulfing the entire community. A heartbroken cousin recounted the moment he received a call from another family member, a query laced with profound concern. "Did Maud hear anything about Vanessa being shot?" The initial denial quickly gave way to a dawning, terrible realization, prompting a unified rush to the hospital where the entire family converged, united in their collective anguish and hope. The stark memory of sitting in the solemn family waiting room, with a clergyman offering solace and prayers, became an indelible and painful etching in their shared memory. Vanessa, being the youngest cousin, represented a symbol of vibrant youth and unrealized potential, making her death all the more incongruous and difficult to reconcile. She's the baby cousin, and it's just not how it's supposed to go. This sentiment captured the profound sense of disbelief and injustice felt by those who loved her most. Back at the original crime scene, investigators had just uncovered a pivotal piece of information. An earlier fight, a physical confrontation between a group of women, approximately 45 minutes before the shooting, at a nearby apartment complex. It was at this crucial juncture that a young woman named Colby stepped forward, her willingness to speak a ray of light in the investigative gloom. Colby confidently declared that she knew the identity of Vanessa's shooter. She introduced herself and emphatically stated that Vanessa was a cherished friend of hers, confirming that they had both been witnesses to and participants in the earlier fight. Colby's agreement to provide a formal statement at the police station was a significant breakthrough, offering the potential to unlock key details of the preceding hours. Once settled in the interrogation room, the crucial question was posed, "Could you tell me what happened today?" Colby began her narrative, confirming that prior to the fatal incident, Vanessa Bearden had been embroiled in a conflict with Olivia Moody. Colby clarified that Olivia was not a close acquaintance of either herself or Vanessa. Rather, Olivia's main point of contention lay with a friend named Alicia Jeffries, who resided nearby. Colby recounted that earlier in the day, as she and Vanessa were spending time together, they observed their mutual friend, Alicia Jeffries, engaged in a heated altercation with another young woman, Olivia. There was a beef, some disagreement between Alicia and Olivia, Colby stated, emphasizing the underlying tension. Witnesses present at the initial scene had reportedly attempted to intervene and break up the fight, yet Colby described the struggle with a disturbing quality, evoking an almost gang element due to the involvement of multiple girls jumping on one individual. Colby admitted that she had known Olivia for approximately 4 months, though not intimately as a close friend, and described Olivia as a provocateur, someone known for staying in touch with people, saying something smart just to see if someone would come bother her. She confirmed that on this particular day, Olivia had engaged in a physical fight with Alicia, and that Vanessa had indeed entered the fray, participating in the physical confrontation. The question posed to Colby echoed the investigator's surprise. "So Vanessa jumped in the fight against Olivia?" Colby affirmed. "Yes," adding a personal note of bewilderment. "Which doesn't make sense to me, because they don't even know each other." The brawl was ultimately quelled by a young man, whom they all referred to as Casey, who physically separated Olivia from the tumultuous scene. As Casey was removing Olivia from the confrontation, she was reportedly screaming obscenities and hurling aggressive threats at the group, further underscoring the raw intensity of the situation. Following the initial skirmish, Colby recounted that Alicia returned to her residence, while she and Vanessa continued their day, as though the earlier events were a fading memory. Approximately 45 minutes after the fight concluded, Colby stated that she and Vanessa were situated at the very apartment complex where Olivia Moody resided. They were seated casually on a fence post positioned in front of the building when they observed Olivia Moody, notably draped in a white towel, making her way past them. They came past us as me, Vanessa, and a group of other girls and males were standing along the ledge, Colby described, adding that Olivia then wrote her down and told us, "You bitches come see me." This public challenge, delivered with overt hostility, was initially dismissed by Colby and the group as empty bluster. However, a short while later, Olivia dispatched another message delivered by a young boy, perhaps 8 or 9 years of age, who navigated through the hallway of one of the apartment buildings. The child relayed Olivia's explicit demand. She specifically wanted the girl in the red shorts. Given that Vanessa was the only person present wearing red shorts, the message's target was undeniable. Colby, sensing the palpable danger, recounted cautioning Vanessa, advising her, "Don't go," because Mott knew she had a gun. The detective's immediate follow-up was piercing. "How did you know she had a gun?" Colby explained her intuition, stating Mott was just saying, "Because the type of person she seems to be, she wouldn't just call you out of a fight." Vanessa, in response, reached to her side, lightly tapping her hip, and revealed a small knife, asserting with conviction, "She's not playing with her." Colby reiterated that Vanessa explicitly showed her the diminutive knife, unequivocally stating her intention to employ it for self-protection if the necessity arose. Colby's account continued, describing how Vanessa then moved to confront Olivia, with the rest of their group trailing behind her. Vanessa proceeded into the very same apartment building hallway from which the young boy had emerged. As she neared Olivia's apartment, reaching a distance of approximately 4 or 5 feet, Colby witnessed a terrifying sight. Olivia suddenly extended her arm from behind her trousers, drawing what appeared to be a small, silver-colored handgun. Olivia swiftly raised the weapon and discharged a shot. At that shocking moment, overwhelmed by fear, Colby instinctively fled. It was only when she heard Vanessa's agonized cry, "Colby, Mom hit," that she realized the horrific truth. Colby turned back, running towards her wounded friend, and saw an older man, the Reverend, already bent over Vanessa, performing CPR in a desperate attempt to save her life. The detective then posed a critical question, aiming to clarify a detail of the confrontation. But didn't Vanessa have the knife out at the time she was shot? Colby's response was definitive and unwavering. "No, sir. The knife was never drawn." The detective, in assessing Colby's overall testimony, found her to be a credible witness, believing her depiction of the events and the sequence of the unfolding tragedy. An intriguing, yet unresolved, detail of Colby's narrative was the unidentified young man, probably the same boy she described earlier, whom Olivia Moody had purportedly sent through the breezeway to initiate contact with the 3 young women. Despite thorough efforts, law enforcement was unable to identify this individual, leaving a small but persistent question mark in their early investigation. With Colby's detailed account providing significant leads, law enforcement had a clear path forward for additional investigative steps. Their immediate priorities included locating and interviewing other potential witnesses who could corroborate Colby's compelling narrative, and, most crucially, finding Olivia Moody, the woman identified as the shooter. However, before detectives could embark on these follow-up procedures, devastating news reached them from the hospital. Vanessa Bearden had succumbed to her wounds. She was pronounced dead. The instant this heart-wrenching information was conveyed, the entire dynamic of the crime scene and the investigation fundamentally shifted. What had initially been classified as a first-degree battery now escalated into a full-blown homicide investigation, imbuing the case with an even greater sense of urgency and gravity, transforming it into a murder inquiry of the highest order. The tragic news of the fatal shooting of Vanessa Bearden, then just 21 years old, reverberated through the very core of Pine Bluff, Arkansas, sending shockwaves of grief and disbelief through the close-knit community. Family members already gathered at the hospital now faced the crushing reality of their loss, their initial fears giving way to profound mourning. One cousin articulated the depth of their collective sorrow, saying, "When Mott found out she died, it hurt me. It hat urote me deeply, and Mott hurt for my aunt, and Mott hurt for my cousins, because she played an integral part in their life." The sentiment of utter disbelief echoed across the family, emphasizing Vanessa's youthful vibrancy. Mort was shocked when it happened because she asked the baby cousin. Her relatives understood with searing clarity the immense void that her passing would leave, recognizing the magnitude of their collective loss. For them, Vanessa was not merely another girl that got shot. She was an indispensable part of their lives, a unique individual whose absence would be profoundly felt. A particularly poignant and agonizing detail arose at the hospital. When family members were permitted to view Vanessa, they were explicitly cautioned against touching her, for her body remained a critical component of a crime scene. This constraint, this inability to offer a final comforting embrace, inflicted an almost unbearable pain, especially upon her mother and sister, further compounding their already immeasurable grief. As Vanessa's loved ones struggled valiantly to comprehend the senselessness of her loss, detectives moved swiftly to pursue the suspect identified in the shooting, 20-year-old Olivia Moody. Intelligence gathered by law enforcement indicated that Olivia resided in Sunset Village, enabling them to quickly pinpoint her location. A crucial element of the scene had been the absence of the weapon used in the shooting, meaning investigators could not discount the ominous possibility that Olivia might still be armed. Proceeding with caution, officers approached her door. Upon knocking, Olivia herself answered. Police then successfully obtained consent from Olivia to conduct a thorough search of her apartment. However, during the exhaustive search, they were unable to locate the firearm that Olivia had reportedly used to shoot Vanessa Bearden. Despite this setback, the investigative team brought Olivia back to the detective office at the station, where she was formally Mirandized, ensuring her awareness of her rights before any questioning. From there, they made contact with her father. Olivia's demeanor throughout this process was remarkably composed, described by officers as calm, nonchalant, an unnerving display of composure in such grave circumstances. She did crucially admit to the shooting, but vehemently asserted that her actions were a matter of self-defense. Olivia confirmed Colby's earlier account to the police, acknowledging her involvement in a prior argument that very day with Alicia Jeffries. The crux of their disagreement, detectives uncovered, revolved around a romantic entanglement. Alicia was now in a relationship with a young man whom Olivia Moody had previously dated, a situation that evidently generated considerable friction between Olivia and Alicia. Olivia stated that their paths crossed as she was walking down the street. It was then, according to Olivia, that Alicia and several of her friends, explicitly including Vanessa Bearden, collectively conspired to jump her, delivering a beating until she managed to break free from their grasp. To substantiate Olivia's claims of physical harm, police meticulously took photographs of her face and hands, documenting evidence of physical injury, including visible abrasions and cuts. Olivia posited that her injuries might have been considerably more severe had it not been for the timely intervention of her friend, a young man known as Casey, whom she identified as Juan Gotti. Casey, she explained, was the individual who bravely pulled her out of the melee, actively striving to de-escalate the conflict and remove her from further danger. Following the initial confrontation and her subsequent removal from the apartments, Olivia stated that she made a deliberate decision to obtain a gun. Her reasoning, as she claimed, was purely for protection, anticipating the possibility of further encounters with the group of women. With this firearm in her possession, Olivia asserted, she was making her way back to her apartment. On her route, she noticed a cluster of girls seated on a fence post situated by her apartment building. Although Alicia Jeffries had by this point already departed the complex, the group still conspicuously included both Vanessa and Colby. Nearby, a group of young men also congregated. According to Olivia, one of these men approached her. He was known as G-Rel, or Garrel Allen, a name that would become highly significant later in the investigation. Olivia described her association with G-Rel as prior and minimal. They knew each other, but they were not close friends. Olivia recounted that G-Rel inquired about the earlier fight. As their conversation unfolded, Olivia stated that she entertained the idea of attempting to de-escalate the burgeoning tension through her friends. She decided, by her own admission, to approach Vanessa and Colby with the intention of engaging in a discussion, hoping to squash the situation. Importantly, Olivia conceded that she had brought the gun with her on this approach. Maintaining her stance that it was merely just in case, she iterated her claim of having been jumped, harassed, and bullied, stating unequivocally that she was just trying to protect herself from this group of girls. As Vanessa and Colby drew closer, Olivia claimed she distinctly heard Colby utter the command, "Get her." At this perceived threat, she instantaneously brandished the gun, according to Olivia, with the sole purpose of instilling fear and scaring them away. She readily admitted to discharging the firearm in the general direction of Vanessa Bearden, but adamantly insisted that her intention was to fire a warning shot. The horrifying realization that she had, in fact, struck Vanessa plunged her into a state of shock. She described herself as standing frozen near the fallen body until someone, whose identity she claimed not to have noticed, took the gun from her. Following this, she retreated to her apartment, closed the door, and waited for the arrival of the authorities. The investigating officer, reflecting on Olivia's rendition of events, found significant inconsistencies. After hearing Olivia's version, mort de dénoti, by the warning shot, based on witnesses' statement that it was pointed at Vanessa. Following her interview, a critical decision was made. Olivia Moody was formally placed under arrest. Ms. Moody was initially charged with the profoundly serious offense of capital murder. A striking and highly unusual moment occurred as the officer was diligently completing the arrest paperwork and the ticket to formally inform Ms. Moody of the capital murder charge. Olivia, with an unsettling calmness, interjected a surprising statement. She made the statement that actually it was second-degree murder. This comment, revealing an unexpected, precise knowledge of legal classifications, deeply astonished the officer who confessed. It caught me by surprise, because Moat D never heard anyone make a statement like that. While Olivia's seemingly precise legal terminology was peculiar, it ultimately had no bearing on the legal proceedings. The initial criminal charge, the arrest charge, is typically made by the police. However, law enforcement agencies are not vested with the authority to file an official criminal indictment. That authority rests with the prosecuting attorney, who, upon reviewing the gathered evidence, formally charged Olivia with murder 1 in court, indicating first-degree murder, underscoring the severity of the alleged offense. At this crucial juncture in the investigation, the imperative became to locate additional witnesses who could either corroborate or definitively refute Olivia's statements. The police were particularly focused on corroborating Olivia's claim about G-Rail being present at the scene, yet their sustained efforts to locate him proved fruitless. The continued inability to find him began to raise serious doubts in the minds of the investigators. Mott was beginning to wonder if there was G-Rail. The missing link of G-Rail's testimony added another layer of complexity to an already intricate case, leaving a key piece of the puzzle stubbornly out of reach, and fueling the uncertainty about Olivia's complete honesty. As the narrative unfolded, investigators were confronted with a growing sense of cognitive dissonance. Olivia Moody, a college student majoring in criminal justice, a person without a prior criminal record, and from a background marked by significant personal triumph over adversity, did not conform to the archetypal image of a cold-blooded killer. This divergence between their preconceived notions and the person sitting before them compelled detectives to re-evaluate their assumptions about Olivia, allowing for the possibility that her claims of harassment might hold a measure of truth. Meanwhile, outside the confines of the police station, the tragic events had begun to cleave the community of Pine Bluff into distinct factions, supporters coalescing around both Vanessa and Olivia, forming an emotional divide that ran deep. The nuances of public opinion in such a deeply personal and emotionally charged case were indeed complex. The initial belief amongst some, driven by sentiment or perhaps by Olivia's seemingly more conventional path towards higher education, was that it couldn't have been Olivia that did it. This perspective often veered into the painful and misguided conclusion that Vanessa had to have done something in order for Olivia to react like that, subtly yet painfully shifting a degree of blame onto the victim. For Vanessa's grieving family, this dynamic created a renewed sense of victimhood, an insidious feeling that the narrative was being twisted to justify an act of profound injustice. Just a few hours after the devastating death of Vanessa Bearden, the young woman implicated in her shooting, Olivia Moody, was safely in police custody. However, the initial certainty held by investigators that Olivia's self-defense claim was merely a strategic fabrication, a smokescreen intended to conceal a more sinister motive, began to be questioned. One prevailing theory amongst the investigators was that Olivia Moody had experienced profound embarrassment, coupled with a deep sense of being physically humiliated and beaten down during the earlier altercation. The subsequent shooting, in this view, was an act born not of pure self-preservation, but of a fierce desire to reclaim her standing, to send an unequivocal message to everyone in that immediate vicinity that she was not to be trifled with, that she would not tolerate being disrespected or physically assaulted again. The initial reports from Colby had definitively stated that the first fight of the day was squarely between Alicia Jeffries and Olivia Moody. Consequently, a crucial next step in the investigative process was to formally interview Alicia, to garner her perspective on the genesis and escalation of their conflict. When detectives ultimately spoke with Alicia, she did indeed confirm the long-standing animosity between herself and Olivia, centered primarily on their romantic rivalry over a shared individual. However, Alicia, for reasons not fully detailed in the provided information, declined to provide a formal, recorded interview. Undeterred, and keen to gain a deeper understanding of the deeply rooted issues between the two young women, detectives resorted to examining their social media interactions. This digital forensic dive proved highly illuminating. The investigators unearthed compelling evidence of intense animosity. They did not like each other. They had a pretty significant Facebook war in which they both said very terrible things about the other person. This public digital feud was, as suspected, inextricably linked to Olivia Moody's ex-boyfriend, who had subsequently become Alicia's current boyfriend. It was evident that Alicia had engaged in online taunting and harassment of Olivia, escalating tensions significantly, which ultimately culminated in the physical altercation. The backdrop to Olivia Moody's life underscored the sheer tragedy of the shooting, lending another layer of pathos to the unfolding events. Born in Chicago, Illinois, Olivia had faced a childhood steeped in poverty, her early years marked by the harsh reality of a mother struggling with drug addiction. In a testament to familial support, Olivia's mother, as she battled her addiction and pursued recovery, had entrusted her children to the care of family members. Olivia's aunt vividly recalled the early days. Olivia's mother is my sister, and in the beginning, me and my mom, we were taking care of my sister's 5 kids, and Olivia was one of them. A further challenge arose when her grandmother subsequently lost her eyesight. So, Ma ended up getting all the kids through DCSF and my mom, and it wasn't easy, but we made it. We made it. Despite the formidable hardships of her early childhood, Olivia had, against considerable odds, managed to transcend her difficult circumstances, demonstrating remarkable resilience and a powerful drive. Olivia was, by all accounts, exceptionally bright. She consistently earned a place on the honor roll throughout her elementary school years, reflecting a deeply studious nature that persisted through her educational journey. Beyond her academic prowess, she was characterized as genuinely giving, a fundamentally good child who avoided trouble, diligently attended school every day, and achieved impressive grades. Her academic path ultimately led her to Pine Bluff, where she enrolled at the University of Arkansas at Pine Bluff, pursuing a major in criminal justice, a poignant irony given the circumstances she now faced. Her family harbored immense pride for her academic achievements and future prospects, envisioning her as the first person in my immediate family that would have graduated with a college degree. At the time of the shooting, Olivia had secured a position as a clerk for a local circuit judge, a testament to her intelligence and a clear indicator of a promising trajectory toward a legal career. Her background, steeped in the rigorous pursuit of education and her evident intelligence, undeniably painted a portrait of an individual far removed from the archetype of a cold-blooded killer, leading detectives to genuinely ponder the veracity of her claims regarding ongoing harassment. However, a critical aspect of their investigation remained unresolved, determining precisely why Vanessa, and not Alicia, had tragically become the victim. In their earnest pursuit of clarity, Detectives revisited the collected witness statements, diligently scrutinizing every detail for a deeper understanding. Their careful review yielded a pivotal piece of evidence that began to shed new light on the seemingly incongruous victim. Vanessa and Olivia, as confirmed by investigations, shared no prior relationship. They were effectively strangers until that fateful day. Vanessa, however, played a significant, albeit indirect, role in the preceding drama by using her cell phone to video record the earlier altercation. The video footage of the fight proved to be an invaluable resource, vividly capturing all the individuals present and, crucially, depicting Olivia being jumped. The video showed Olivia in a vulnerable, largely defenseless state, struggling against the combined force of multiple attackers. The scene painted a clear picture. She was essentially helpless, finding it extraordinarily difficult to contend with such overwhelming numbers. Based on this new evidence, a compelling and tragic hypothesis began to form. Vanessa, despite her peripheral involvement, was likely at the profoundly wrong place at the undeniably wrong time. Olivia's primary animosity was not directed at Vanessa, yet Vanessa's presence at the scene, along with the group that had attacked her, specifically her involvement in filming the event, appeared to have ignited a powerful, perhaps uncontrollable, reaction within Olivia. The raw, visceral memory of being physically assaulted by those girls, so clearly documented on Vanessa's phone, seemed to have triggered something in Olivia, transforming an ordinary confrontation into a tragically fatal encounter. Yet, even with this psychological understanding, investigators firmly believed that Olivia possessed other available avenues, other choices she could have pursued, before resorting to such extreme and ultimately fatal measures. While Olivia Moody had been formally charged with the first-degree murder of Vanessa Bearden, the evidence, particularly the video footage, and Olivia's difficult background, led investigators to meticulously re-evaluate whether her steadfast claim of self-defense could truly be substantiated by the unfolding facts. The final and most definitive answers often lie within the unforgiving impartiality of forensic science. Therefore, investigators eagerly awaited the results of Vanessa's autopsy. The post-mortem examination conclusively revealed that Vanessa had been struck by a single gunshot in her back, specifically in the left shoulder region. The projectile then traversed her body, exiting through the front of her right shoulder. The forensic report starkly confirmed that she had been shot in the back. Furthermore, the analysis determined that the gunshot was not delivered at close range, but rather from a distance estimated to be between 6 and 10 feet, perhaps. These findings were critically important, offering a scientific challenge to Olivia's self-defense narrative. The very fact that Vanessa was struck in the back, in combination with the estimated distance of the shooter and the implied act of fleeing, significantly undermined any assertion of a justifiable self-defense scenario. True self-defense, by definition, implies facing an imminent, direct threat. If Vanessa had indeed brandished the knife, or attempted to physically harm or stab Olivia, then a robust argument for self-defense might have been tenable. However, there was absolutely no credible evidence, either from witnesses or forensic analysis, to suggest that Vanessa Bearden ever produced or displayed the knife, much less posed a direct, active threat to Olivia Moody with it. As the heartbreaking story of Vanessa's murder and Olivia's subsequent arrest began to fully saturate the community, public opinion, as often happens in such deeply emotional cases, became sharply polarized. Not everyone readily embraced the notion of Olivia's guilt. The narrative of Olivia, A promising college student from a disadvantaged background being targeted and assaulted by a group of girls resonated strongly with an emergent anti-bullying sentiment within the community. This perspective led many to support Olivia, believing her actions were a consequence of severe provocation and self-preservation. Mort think it created a divide in the city, one observer noted, highlighting the schism. Because, you had supporters for both, and you had a lot of anti-bullying sentiments that was brought about for Olivia, and had people that felt like Vanessa didn't deserve to die that way. The complex interplay of perceived social status also subtly influenced some viewpoints, with a troubling implication. Olivia got to be the person that they looked at and said, "Oh, well, just because she went to college, it could have been Olivia that did it." This often devolved into the assumption that Vanessa had to have done something in order for Olivia to react like that, a cruel deflection of responsibility that deeply pained Vanessa's family, who felt, quite understandably, that it was tantamount to being victimized all over again. The insidious nature of this victim blaming, however subtle, only exacerbated their profound grief and sense of injustice. Despite the ongoing investigation and the gravity of the murder charge, Olivia Moody was granted the privilege of returning to college, a decision that allowed her to resume a semblance of normalcy while investigators diligently continued to build their comprehensive case against her. 3 months passed following the devastating death of Vanessa Bearden. 3 months of meticulous police work and unanswered questions, until a pivotal moment arrived with the emergence of a new, crucial witness. This individual was identified as Garrel Allen, also known by his street name G-Rel. The very man whom Olivia had previously claimed was present at the scene and a key witness, but whom police had been unable to locate despite extensive efforts. Now, serendipitously, Garrel, the one we was looking for, he surfaced. His reappearance was not under ideal circumstances. He was already incarcerated, confined in jail on drug charges. It was while awaiting his trial for these unrelated offenses that Garrel took the extraordinary step of writing a letter to the prosecutor's office, explicitly stating that he possessed vital information pertaining to the Bearden shooting. This letter was swiftly forwarded to the Pine Bluff Police Department investigators, who promptly arranged to interview Garrel Allen. His testimony held immense significance. Garrel was positioned as a material witness for the government, a figure whose account was crucial, given the case's heavy reliance on eyewitness testimony to reconstruct the true sequence of events. Garrel Allen's account shed invaluable new light on the incident. He corroborated seeing Olivia shortly after the initial fight. According to Garrel, Olivia attempted to persuade him to approach the 3 girls, Vanessa, Colby, and Alicia, to initiate some form of interaction with her. This suggested an intent on Olivia's part to draw the group into another confrontation, not necessarily to squash the situation, as she had initially claimed. Later, Garrel distinctly recalled witnessing Olivia discharge a single shot from an approximate distance of 6 to 10 feet, directly striking Vanessa. Crucially, Garrel also emphatically stated that Vanessa never made any type of threatening gesture or aggressive move towards Olivia prior to being shot. His testimony corroborated the autopsy findings and other witness accounts, reinforcing the fact that Olivia Moody had indeed shot Vanessa Bearden in the back. And moreover, as Vanessa was actively attempting to flee from Olivia. However, even with this corroborating evidence against Olivia, Garrel's perspective on the matter, much like the community's, remained deeply conflicted. He surprisingly maintained that, Despite all the presented information and the undeniable facts of how everything played out, Olivia had still acted in self-defense. This belief, however erroneous in the face of physical evidence and objective legal standards, reflected the profound psychological impact of the preceding fight and perhaps a misguided sense of loyalty or personal interpretation of events. For the prosecutors, Garrell's statement, while containing contradictions in interpretation, clarified one fundamental, undeniable truth. The cold, hard facts of the event were now more precisely aligned. The leading prosecutor articulated their underlying conviction. Vedkepte, had careful precision. Mote have never believed that Olivia Moody was an inherently bad person. Mote believe Olivia Moody did an inherently bad thing. This statement captured the essence of their prosecutorial stance, acknowledging Olivia's potential as an individual while condemning the specific act she committed. The prosecution acknowledged the plausibility of Olivia initially acquiring the gun for personal protection, but critically, they believed that merely seeing the group that had assaulted her earlier, gathered in her immediate vicinity, triggered a profound and uncontrollable emotional response within her. They theorized that she intentionally tried to bait them into that situation, deliberately escalating the tension. Their firm conviction was that she did not fire a genuine warning shot. Instead, they believed she just pointed and fired, with lethal intent, or at the very least, an extreme indifference to human life. However, even with these strong convictions, the inherent unpredictability of any trial, particularly one as emotionally charged and publicly controversial as this, was a significant concern for the prosecution. The impact of deeply ingrained public opinions on the potential objectivity of a jury weighed heavily on their minds. Going into trial, Mott had my concerns about the public opinions because you don't know how that would affect the jury, confessed one member of the legal team. The potential for community divisions to infiltrate the jury room was a palpable threat to the pursuit of a straightforward verdict. Nearly 1 year after the tragic death of Vanessa Bearden, on May 16th, in the year 2012, Olivia Moody, the young woman accused of her murder, stood trial. The courtroom was packed, an immediate testament to the intense public interest and the profound emotional investment of the community in the case. The seats were filled to capacity, divided distinctly between steadfast supporters for Olivia and the grieving family and friends who had come to support Vanessa. Olivia's defense strategy was squarely predicated on the claim of self-defense. Their argument hinged on the preceding aggression, the severe beatdown Olivia had endured earlier in the day, asserting that such a traumatic experience would undeniably instill fear in anyone. Her actions, the defense contended, were solely to protect herself against the imminent threat of further beatdown from the hostile group. The prosecution, however, presented a counterargument that was both simple and powerful in its legal logic. Self-defense cannot logically be asserted if the victim is in the act of fleeing and no longer poses an active, tangible threat to the accused. A crucial challenge for the defense was establishing Olivia's state of mind, her genuine fear for her life. The only viable path, they believed, to authentically convey this profound sense of fear and desperation to the jury was to have Olivia herself take the stand and testify directly. This, however, represented a high-stakes gambit, an inherently high-risk strategy, as placing a criminal defendant on the stand invariably opens them up to intense, often hostile, cross-examination, exposing every facet of their account to rigorous scrutiny. Before Olivia was called to testify, prosecutors, cognizant of the inherent risks of a trial and potentially influenced by public opinion, attempted to negotiate a plea deal. The proposed arrangement was substantial. A reduction of the charges from first-degree murder to manslaughter, a lesser offense, coupled with a recommended sentence of 4 years probation, and, significantly, the right to have her record expunged. This was, by any legal standard, an exceedingly generous offer. A pathway that would have fundamentally altered the trajectory of Olivia's life. Had she accepted this deal, she would have been released that very day, able to return home to her family in Chicago. However, with remarkable fortitude and conviction, or perhaps a profound miscalculation of the situation, Olivia unequivocally refused the plea bargain. She then proceeded to take the stand. As she testified, Olivia Moody was subjected to a battery of tough questions during Croc's examination, queries to which she often did not have an answer. Key questions revolved around her decision to acquire a gun and, critically, why she proactively approached the group that included Vanessa. These crucial gaps in her narrative created significant vulnerabilities in her self-defense claim. Once the defense had completed the presentation of their evidence, both sides delivered their closing statements, summarizing their arguments, and imploring the jury to accept their respective interpretations of the events. The jury then began their deliberations, a solemn process where the fates of 2 families and the life of Olivia Moody hung precariously in the balance. After careful consideration, they returned to the courtroom with their verdict: guilty on 1 count of second-degree murder. The legal teams and observers concurred that the jury's decision unequivocally demonstrated their clear understanding that this case was fundamentally not a case of self-defense. In the eyes of the law and the jury, Olivia's actions were an extreme manifestation or indifference to the value of human life, precisely the definition encapsulated within the charge of second-degree murder. The verdict itself was received with profound difficulty by Olivia's supporters. It was very hard. Yet Olivia herself maintained a remarkable composure, displaying immense inner strength. She did not cry, and in a deeply affecting gesture, she actually sought to comfort her distraught family members. For them, the guilty verdict profoundly diverged from what they genuinely believed she deserved. However, amidst the profound sorrow for Vanessa family, the verdict brought a measure of closure, a form of justice that, while unable to bring Vanessa back, at least held the perpetrator accountable. Olivia Moody received a sentence of 30 years, with eligibility for parole after serving 7.5 years, assuming good behavior. The tragic culmination of events served as a stark and painful reminder that 2 families, both grappling with their own unique challenges, were ultimately destroyed by a single, irreversible act. Vanessa and Olivia, despite their contrasting paths and the differing circumstances of their involvement, shared a commonality. They had both navigated challenging backgrounds, each having overcome considerable adversity in their earnest pursuit of success and a brighter future. Both possessed bright futures ahead of them, replete with unfulfilled potential. This singular, devastating situation, born of unchecked anger and a fatal choice, irrevocably changed the trajectory of both futures, leaving a permanent scar on their lives and the lives of those who loved them. The enduring impact of the tragedy lingers. Vanessa's family frequently speaks of her, recalling her loving spirit, sharing amusing anecdotes, and striving to ensure that her children are raised, enveloped in an environment of unwavering love, fostering her memory and her inherent goodness. The profound sadness remains that Vanessa never had the chance to fully realize her boundless potential. her life cut tragically short. It was a source of continuing pain for her family that, often in interviews or even during the court proceedings, Vanessa was too often reduced to the impersonal designation of that girl. But to those who cherished her, she as Vanessa to us. She's a mom, she's a sister, she's a daughter, she belongs to somebody, she's still here with us. She is still a person. Her memory lives on as a vibrant human being, not just a tragic statistic, an innocent victim whose life was violently stolen. Her family holds fast to the profound belief that Vanessa should have been granted the fundamental right to live her life peacefully, free from such senseless violence. When analyzing the motives behind crimes such as this, and the reasons why similar cases frequently occur, a complex interplay of human emotions and societal pressures emerges. At the core of the conflict between Olivia and Alicia was a romantic dispute, a rivalry over a male partner, which, while seemingly trivial to outsiders, often ignites intense passions, jealousy, and feelings of betrayal, particularly in younger individuals navigating the complexities of relationships and self-worth. This initial friction escalated into public taunting and harassment, exacerbated by the instantaneous and often unforgiving platform of social media, where words and threats can be magnified and widely disseminated, feeding into an increasingly toxic dynamic. The transition from digital skirmishes to a physical confrontation, the beatdown Olivia experienced, was a pivotal moment, transforming emotional pain into tangible physical harm and public humiliation. Such events frequently trigger deep-seated responses rooted in a need for perceived justice, revenge, or, critically, a desire to reassert one's power and prevent future victimization. The availability of weapons, coupled with a heightened sense of fear and anger, then provides a dangerous means for an individual to respond, even disproportionately, to a perceived threat or past offense. The psychology is often one of escalating perceived slights, leading to a breakdown of conflict resolution and a dangerous reliance on brute force, or the threat of it, to settle scores. These cases recur with alarming frequency because underlying issues of self-esteem, poor impulse control, a lack of effective conflict mediation skills, and the rapid availability of dangerous objects create fertile ground for small disputes to mushroom into deadly tragedies. The community divide further illustrates the societal implications, where empathy is fragmented, and individuals rationalize actions based on fragmented understanding, reinforcing cycles of animosity rather than fostering reconciliation. Police, in tracking down perpetrators in et ou shehat cases, rely upon a methodical and structured approach, combining traditional investigative techniques with modern forensic tools. The most important details and clues initially include the 911 calls themselves, which provide crucial immediate information about the event, location, and often initial witness descriptions. Securing the crime scene meticulously is paramount, allowing for the identification and collection of physical evidence, such as the spent 9mm cartridge case, which tells investigators the caliber of weapon used and might provide ballistic information. Witness accounts, though varied and sometimes contradictory, are invaluable. Detectives prioritize interviewing immediate bystanders, seeking to identify the victim, understand the initial narrative, and, crucially, identify potential suspects. The Reverend S. brave actions provided not only aid, but also a critical eyewitness account of the immediate aftermath. Following up on victim identification leads to understanding their background, which can help establish motives and relationships. In this case, Vanessa's clean record immediately raised questions about her involvement in a violent incident. The police investigation in this instance was a commendable example of combining conventional policing with modern data gathering. Once a suspect, Olivia Moody, was identified through Colby's testimony, the next steps involved locating her and, if possible, securing the weapon. The consent to search her apartment, though unsuccessful in yielding the gun, was a critical legal step. Interviewing the suspect is always a cornerstone. Olivia's calm demeanor, her admission to the shooting, and her assertion of self-defense provided the foundation for the prosecution's challenge. The subsequent focus on gathering corroborating evidence, such as the initial fight and Vanessa's involvement in recording it, became essential. The social media deep dive into the Facebook war between Olivia and Alicia was a demonstration of adapting investigative techniques to contemporary communication methods. The photographs of Olivia's injuries offered a physical piece of evidence supporting her claim of being beat down, though not necessarily justifying a fatal response. The autopsy results, undeniably objective and scientific, often provide the most definitive answers, becoming critical tools to either support or dismantle a defendant's narrative. Vanessa, being shot in the back and from a distance, significantly undermined Olivia's claim of direct, face-to-face self-defense. The belated emergence of Garrell Allen, found through his incarceration for drug charges, highlights a recurring investigative pattern. Perpetrators or witnesses sometimes surface months later due to unrelated legal troubles, providing delayed but vital information. His letter to the prosecutor was a crucial, unsolicited clue. Despite his personal interpretation of self-defense, his factual corroboration of Olivia shooting Vanessa in the back while fleeing was incredibly damaging to the defense case. The police sophistication in this scenario was demonstrated through their systematic approach. From initial scene response to detailed witness interviews, digital forensics, medical forensics, and patient pursuit of leads, even delayed ones, ultimately assembling a comprehensive case for the prosecution. The criminals in this particular case, however, lacked true sophistication. The actions were impulsive, driven by raw emotion rather than careful planning. The gun was used in plain sight of witnesses, and the suspect remained at her residence. The lack of an immediate attempt to conceal the weapon, though it was not found, indicates an absence of sophisticated criminal planning, more akin to reactive, emotionally charged behavior, gone tragically awry. Olivia's comment about second-degree murder showcased some intellectual understanding of legal terms, but her actions hardly fit the profile of a calculated criminal avoiding detection. Drawing life lessons from this profound tragedy, the foremost preventive measure lies in nurturing effective conflict resolution skills from a young age. Schools, communities, and families must prioritize teaching empathy, de-escalation techniques, and encouraging constructive dialogue instead of confrontation. The case vividly illustrates how quickly a seemingly minor personal grievance, especially one involving a romantic entanglement, can escalate into devastating violence when individuals resort to taunting, physical altercations, and ultimately, lethal weapons. We must emphasize the profound long-term consequences of impulsive actions. The aggression, the beatdown undoubtedly fueled Olivia's fear and desire for retribution, highlighting the destructive cycle of violence. Understanding and addressing the psychological triggers behind such reactions is critical for intervention. The legal system itself provides avenues for seeking justice against harassment or assault, and resorting to personal, armed retaliation bypasses these established processes, often leading to tragic overreach. This case underscores the importance of exercising self-control and seeking help, whether from trusted adults, counselors, or law enforcement, when conflicts become overwhelming and threats loom. The possession of a weapon, especially when driven by fear and anger, exponentially increases the risk of fatal outcomes. Societies must continually reflect on how easily readily available means of violence can turn a heated argument into a permanent loss. Furthermore, the role of community dynamics and social media amplification in fueling tensions cannot be overlooked. Fostering digital citizenship and encouraging responsible online behavior is more crucial than ever. The lessons are a solemn reminder that human lives hold immeasurable value, and no temporary grievance justifies their tragic forfeiture. From an investigative standpoint, the police could potentially catch perpetrators faster through several enhancements. Expediting the identification of individuals involved in preliminary altercations, particularly those recorded on social media, could prevent escalation. Active monitoring of social media for escalating beefs in high-risk communities, though challenging from a privacy perspective, might offer preemptive intervention opportunities in certain circumstances where credible threats are made. Establishing immediate protocols for locating all known individuals mentioned in initial witness statements, such as the elusive G-Rel, as soon as possible, rather than awaiting his later incarceration for unrelated charges, could have clarified timelines and intentions more quickly. The prompt identification and questioning of the young boy who delivered the message to Vanessa, even if he were just 8 or 9, might have offered critical, unbiased insights into Olivia's immediate intentions before the shooting. Moreover, public awareness campaigns that encourage individuals to come forward with information about escalating conflicts or weapon possession, perhaps through anonymous tips, could empower communities to proactively aid law enforcement before violence erupts. Strengthening community policing efforts, building greater trust between residents and officers, could lead to earlier reporting of disputes and a willingness to provide crucial witness testimony without fear of reprisal. Lastly, the legal system's offering of comprehensive plea deals, even if initially rejected, shows an effort toward faster resolution. But understanding the psychological factors that lead a defendant to reject such deals could also provide insights for swifter judicial processes in future cases, recognizing that some individuals are so entrenched in their narrative of self-justification that they might not perceive the benevolence of a plea offer until it is too late. Ultimately, the intertwining of proactive community engagement, responsive social media vigilance, and traditional diligent investigative techniques offers the most robust pathway for police to act swiftly and decisively to prevent such horrific cases and apprehend perpetrators. Let us now embark on a detailed, expansive telling of the events, woven into a continuous narrative tapestry, where the threads of tragedy, justice, and human folly are meticulously unfolded. The pervasive, almost palpable quietude of Pine Bluff, Arkansas, on that specific Sunday afternoon, the 26th day of June, in the year 2011, was ultimately deceptive. The air itself seemed to possess a heavy, almost somnolent quality, characteristic of a southern summer's embrace. Yet beneath this seemingly serene exterior, tensions that had been festering in the unseen corners of human interaction were now rapidly congealing into a destructive force. This was to be a day forever etched in the collective memory of the city, not for its calm, but for the profound eruption of violence that shattered its peace, claiming a life and forever altering another. At the heart of this unfolding tragedy were two young women, both propelled by ambition and a fierce determination to surmount the numerous challenges that their lives had presented. Each possessed her own unique trajectory, having tirelessly navigated a complex web of personal hardships and societal hurdles, striving diligently towards the elusive pinnacle of success and stability. Yet, their paths were destined to intersect not in shared triumph, but in a calamitous clash, leading to a fateful encounter outside an apartment complex that would end in an unthinkable act of gun violence. One of them, Vanessa Bearden, a vibrant and promising 21-year-old, would be the victim, her youthful dreams and aspirations abruptly extinguished, leaving a chasm of grief in her wake. Vanessa Bearden was a young woman whose very essence radiated a warmth and boundless generosity that endeared her to all who were fortunate enough to know her. She was the embodiment of selfless spirit, a natural giver, whose empathy was as vast as the clear Arkansas sky. It was said that whatever one might need, whatever assistance or comfort one sought, Vanessa was not merely willing but profoundly happy to extend her help, her hand, her heart, without hesitation or expectation of recompense. Her readiness to contribute, to offer solace, or simply to brighten a moment for another, characterized her deeply loving disposition. Her life, though cut short with such searing injustice, was already a testament to her unyielding spirit, her fervent desire to create a meaningful existence, not just for herself, but most especially for her cherished family. Her commitment to caring for her loved ones, coupled with her unwavering aspirations, illuminated a future that held immense promise, rendering her demise an almost unbearable loss for those who knew the true depth of her character. She possessed that rare quality of infectious vitality, a personality that could, and often did, uplift an entire room, leaving an enduring impression of genuine compassion and an indefatigable zest for life. The community around her knew her as a constant source of positivity, a young woman whose moral compass always pointed true north, guided by principles of fairness and the inherent dignity of every individual. The path to this heart-wrenching climax, as witness accounts painstakingly pieced together, was not a sudden plunge into darkness, but rather an agonizingly gradual, almost inexorable, escalation of human drama. What began as a mere disagreement, a clash of wills or perhaps pride, mutated and intensified over time, reaching a point of critical mass where rationality yielded to raw, unbridled emotion. Yet, the nuanced tapestry of events depended entirely on the individual perspective of the storyteller, each account filtered through a unique lens of personal involvement, lingering biases, palpable fears, and deeply entrenched loyalties. Every narrative offered a distinct shade, a particular emphasis on certain elements while subtly diminishing others, thus creating a complex, sometimes contradictory, kaleidoscope of perceived realities. However, across all narratives, a consensus emerged. There had been a profound beef, an undercurrent of animosity, a tangible disagreement that had simmered ve kep ite hot, increasingly dangerous heat. The igniting spark for this sequence of calamitous events appeared to be an earlier physical altercation, a shocking scene where a group of young women, acting in concert, had engaged in a physical assault against a single female individual. This specific detail would later prove to be of monumental significance in unraveling the psychological dimensions and motivations behind the tragic subsequent encounter, revealing the raw emotional wound left by this public humiliation. One of the most perplexing and, ultimately, Sorrowful aspects of this evolving narrative was the striking absence of any prior criminal record associated with Vanessa Bearden. Her name, prior to this tragic incident, had never once surfaced in connection with any legal or contentious situation. She stood, in the public record and in the estimation of her community, as a young woman of unblemished character, deeply focused on her education, her family, and her pursuit of a career in nursing. This pristine background injected an acute sense of bewilderment and profound sorrow into her involvement in such a brutal street confrontation, making her ultimate fate even more incongruous and difficult to reconcile. Conversely, for the individual who experienced the collective beatdown, the physical aggression and public humiliation she suffered was undeniably a profoundly frightening experience. The psychological impact of such an event, the feeling of helplessness, the erosion of personal dignity, the surge of fear, is immense and far-reaching. It was a potent detail that prompted thoughtful individuals to reflect deeply. This could indeed have been the precise, volatile trigger that set in motion an entire, inescapable chain of retaliatory events, ultimately leading to the tragic loss of life. Such an experience can profoundly warp one's sense of security, fostering a desperate need for self-protection that, when combined with poor judgment and opportunity, can result in unthinkable consequences. The evolving situation was further complicated by the unsettling emergence of weaponry into the narrative, reflecting a desperate, almost primal, turn towards self-preservation in the face of perceived and real threats. One witness account spoke of a small knife, produced not with overt aggressive intent, but explicitly declared as a tool for personal defense, a last resort in a situation rapidly spiraling out of control. More ominous still, another account referred to a gun, explicitly claimed to be for protection, adding a chilling layer of lethality to an already tense atmosphere. The juxtaposition of these intentions, the fundamental human desire to protect oneself versus the stark reality of employing dangerous implements, painted an increasingly grim picture of the escalating conflict. It starkly illuminated how a disagreement, initially fueled by words and fistfights, could abruptly transition into a far deadlier dimension through the introduction of firearms, thereby raising the stakes to an unimaginably perilous level. This tragic unfolding of events deeply polarized the city, creating an emotional chasm where loyalties and sympathies became profoundly divided. Supporters emerged for both the victim, Vanessa, and the alleged perpetrator, Olivia, each side passionately believing in their narrative of truth, innocence, or justified self-defense. This schism within the community only deepened the complexity of the human tragedy, exposing the nuanced and often conflicting perspectives on culpability, intent, and justice. Yet, despite these deeply etched divisions, an almost universally shared sentiment, poignant and sorrowful, echoed throughout Pine Bluff. Vanessa Bearden, in the vibrant prime of her young life, unequivocally did not deserve to perish in such a horrific, violent manner, a belief that transcended all ideological rifts and resonated with a profound, shared sense of human injustice. At precisely one point on that fateful Sunday, the 26th of June, in the year 2011, the almost oppressive silence that had characterized the afternoon in Pine Bluff, Arkansas, was savagely torn asunder by an abrupt deluge of urgent, panicked calls flooding the communication lines of the Jefferson County 911 Center. Each desperate voice conveyed a chilling and consistent message: reports of a shooter active in the community, the unmistakable, terrifying sounds of gunfire rending the air, a chaotic scene of people scattering in sheer terror and an overall environment descending rapidly into widespread pandemonium. Amidst this rising chorus of alarm and fear, a horrifying, singular truth began to crystallize from the disjointed pieces of information. A precious human life had been gravely impacted, as one person was confirmed to have sustained a gunshot wound. The severity of the incident was immediate and unmistakable. First responders, their professional instincts immediately seizing control, amidst the rush of adrenaline, were swiftly dispatched to a specific location on the west side of town, where the reports had centered. For seasoned law enforcement officers and emergency medical technicians alike, every such call carried an inherent and significant burden of risk. The unspoken question, a grim companion always lingering in the periphery of their minds when responding to active shooter scenarios, was the chilling uncertainty. Was the perpetrator still present at the scene? Was the shooter still armed and dangerous, lurking in the shadows, poised to unleash further havoc? Upon his immediate arrival, the very first officer to reach the chaotic scene encountered an older gentleman, his face etched kepta, hat concern and determination, valiantly administering cardiopulmonary resuscitation to the apparent victim. This individual identified himself as a reverend, a spiritual leader from the church conveniently located directly across the street from the unfolding drama. The reverend, in his raw, candid account, described witnessing the entirety of the confrontation. His attention had been forcibly seized by the distinct, percussive crack of gunshots. He recalled looking over and observing, with terrifying clarity, another woman holding a gun, standing starkly over a woman who lay motionless on the ground. Without a second's hesitation, propelled by a profound sense of moral obligation and deep compassion, the Reverend had instinctively rushed across the street, his sole intention being to offer aid, to lend what succor he could in that desperate moment. By the time additional law enforcement and medical teams converged on the chaotic locale, the scene was expeditiously secured, restoring a measure of order to the pandemonium. Emergency medical technicians, working with trained precision and unwavering focus, immediately took over the critical task of attending to the severely wounded young woman. The chilling sight of crimson blood visibly seeping from her shoulder area unequivocally communicated the profound gravity of her injuries. She remained unresponsive, her body still and silent, neither conscious nor capable of communication, a grim testament to the force of the impact she had sustained. The EMTs, employing every available life-saving technique, continued their urgent efforts to render aid, simultaneously preparing her for rapid transport and loading her swiftly into the waiting ambulance, recognizing that every second counted in the delicate balance between life and death. As the gravely injured victim was hastily rushed to the trauma center, a critical initial phase of the police investigation began: the immediate identification of the individual. Police officers, moving with purposeful urgency, initiated questioning among the distraught bystanders, seeking any information that might shed light on her identity. Through the invaluable testimony of several witnesses, who consistently provided her name, they successfully identified her as Vanessa Bearden. Further preliminary inquiries revealed a crucial detail. Vanessa did not reside at that particular apartment complex where the shooting had transpired. This discrepancy immediately ignited one of the primary, most pressing questions for the initial investigative team. Why was she present at that specific fateful location, on that serene Sunday afternoon? What chain of events had brought her to the site of her tragic demise? Pine Bluff, Arkansas, though a community of a certain size and complexity, was not typically characterized by random acts of profound violence. The average citizen, for the most part, could live without the gnawing fear of being caught in an arbitrary incident of severe aggression. The city's crime patterns, generally speaking, did not include widespread instances of fatal home invasions or indiscriminate drive-by shootings that claimed innocent lives without warning. When violent crime did unfortunately occur within the city's confines, it almost invariably traced its roots back to deeply personal disputes, often referred to within the local vernacular as a personal beef. Such incidents were rarely the result of a capricious, random act. They were typically the painful culmination of long simmering grudges or direct interpersonal conflicts. Vanessa Bearden's pristine background, marked by a complete absence of any prior criminal record or any adverse encounters with the legal system, only deepened the perplexing nature of her involvement in such a brutal act of violence. Her untainted history heightened the urgency for investigators to unravel the fundamental questions that lie at the heart of every serious crime. Who was involved? What exactly transpired to bring about this violence? Why did it occur with such tragic finality? And how precisely did the entirety of this devastating situation ultimately materialize? The answers to these crucial interrogatives were paramount in comprehending the full scope of the tragedy that had so abruptly seized the calm of Pine Bluff. Vanessa Bearden, whose birth occurred on the 15th day of May, in the year 1990, in the very heart of Pine Bluff, Arkansas, was an individual with profound and enduring ties to the close-knit fabric of her community. Her upbringing was richly steeped in an atmosphere of abundant love, surrounded and perpetually supported by a sprawling network of cousins and immediate family members, all of whom constituted a vibrant, large, and deeply interconnected clan. They were not merely a family in Pine Bluff. They were the Pine Bluff family, widely recognized and revered within the community, especially noted for their deep-rooted affiliations, Vekepat, Tehat local churches, and notably for their highly regarded singing ensemble, the Bearden Singers. Their harmonious voices were often a comforting fixture at moat by various communal gatherings and spiritual services, weaving them further into the city's identity. Vanessa's childhood was characterized by the quintessential experiences of what one might affectionately term country kids. This meant an idyllic existence filled with the thrill of riding four-wheelers through verdant fields, the simple yet profound pleasure of performing daily chores, such as collecting fresh eggs from the chickens, and the uninhibited freedom of perpetually running around outdoors, truly embracing the expansive embrace of nature. Her outgoing nature and infectious spirit meant that everybody knew Vanessa, and indeed she was possessed of an undeniably really big personality, one that exuded warmth, charisma, and an innate ability to connect deeply with others.